Well, on Niagara Falls Boulevard, a very busy retail strip around here, there's a jewelry store with a big digital sign, and they always have, diamonds on it or whatnot. And but one day I was driving by, and it has this hand up with an engagement ring on, and it says in giant capital letters, "At last." Exclamation point. And I just got so offended at that. I'm like, what the fuck? In this day and age, that's like.
Welcome to Charbroiled Chats.
At last, finally, you are engaged. You have worth now as a woman. And again, being a single woman, never married, probably never will be married, it just really offended me.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Antediluvian? Is that? I don't know. It just seems really like, holy shit, retro in a bad way,
I think it would be antediluvian. But
Pardon?
I think it's antediluvian, not anti.
Oh, is it?
Just a small point.
Oh, antediluvian.
Right,
No, you're
right.
probably right. It's ENTE instead of ANTI.
Yeah, because it's before, not against.
Antediluvian. No, you're right. It's before right? Is before diluvian.
Right.
Whatever the hell that is.
Which was when everyone was expected to be married. All the dinosaurs were married to each other in non-same-sex hetero relationships.
Yes.
So when you tell that story to other people, what's the reaction to your unmarried friends? Or
all my friends would totally understand what I'm getting at. I mean, I have friends at every stage of relationships, right? I have other single friends. I have other single mom friends. I have divorced friends. I have married friends. I have friends in their third marriage. You know what I mean? Like I have the whole spectrum, but we all think very much alike, and, but there is one friend of mine, she's 10 years older, and it's really funny. She, and, I love her as my friend, but it's very interesting because she's Italian, right? And that 10 years, she is still very much like an old school Italian in the way she thinks. So I don't know for sure. I mean, she'd probably think like, oh, Grace finally got engaged, that would probably.
Right. And then she'd cross herself.
Maybe.
Or is it this way?
I don't know, but it's so weird that one decade is such a difference in our attitudes. But obviously, I really came of age with like drugs and free love and whatever else, and she was still in that kind of 60s thing when she got older. And
I can see the same thing with guys.
Yeah.
From the sense that a guy who, at least this was 20 years ago, a guy who wasn't married, he was either weird or could be gay in those days, and there was nothing to be done about that. But not to the same extent as with women. I think women are expected to be married.
Well,
Right. And like
maybe I'm sorry, Amy BAYLIE.
No, it's like they're damaged goods if they're not married,
right.
or there's something serious.
But it's weird because a lot of people that I talk to, like an unmarried woman of my age, doesn't seem as odd as an unmarried man of my age.
I wonder if that's statistically.
I mean, a lot of people think that.
No, actually, I think that's true because I think of men that I know who have been divorced or they've lost their spouse, or they get married again. And in a sort of a shorter period of time too.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, men really seem to need to be part of a couple,
right? Or taken care of, or
yeah.
And to move on.
Yeah, and so but what I'm talking about specifically is someone, maybe a man who's like my age, who's never been married, and who's not gay. Like, you really, like, I know a lot of people really wonder, like, why, because it just seems like men have this need to be in that kind of relationship. I don't know.
Is this do you not like where you are?
Me?
You just said you probably might not maybe get married ever.
Well, and my brother would tell me you can't predict that, but, I don't know how it would ever happen, but maybe it would happen. I'm totally happy with it. I mean, I've had long-term relationships, and they've always been kind of difficult for me. So, like I'm completely happy. And I have friends like Kathy Hines, right? It has taken her a really long time for her to understand that I'm happy alone. She finally said to me like about maybe 2 years ago, I think she had split up with someone, and she said, Grace, I totally understand you wanting to be alone. It's not like I want to be alone. It's not like I don't want to be alone. It's just where I am and I'm happy with it, but someone like Kathy, who is, somewhat more traditional in the way she feels about relationships and stuff like that, she could never understand it, and she'd always ask me, are you dating anyone? And like my friends here, like they never bother asking me that. They know.
Right. She'll tell me something if it comes up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with a woman who's not married? We know the guy probably has Boy Scouts in the crawl space or something going on that's not that BAYLIE might dream about.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Right.
But
in the hole.
Guys are weird if they're not married, but what's a woman, just hard to get along with or sad or?
Well, I don't know. I think and I'm sure there's a positive spin you could put on a man who's at a certain age and not married. I just don't know it. But like with women, I think in general that basically what they say is that women don't need to be taken care of anymore economically.
Mm-hmm.
And like marriage, up until a certain point was just for economic reasons in general, right? Or to like merge two kingdoms or something,
right. And have children.
And then it, then it took on that more like romantic love thing, but yet still at the same time, women were taken care of. And supposedly, there are more apparently single women now like than ever in history. At least in the United States. I don't know if that's true, probably not true across the world, but, and it people believe, I think mostly that it's just because you don't need someone to take care of you.
Right.
You can, if you like being independent and on your own, you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think women's friendships are also can be fairly deep. And,
yeah, no doubt.
And much deeper than you might have with a man.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about the physical part of it, then find it in other places.
Yeah.
Then, maybe you don't need a spouse.
Well, I always thought if I were to get married, I would really like it if we could like live right next to each other in two apartments.
Right.
That would be, so that kind of tells you my maybe feeling about being coupled,
Right. Companionship.
You mean a male in the other apartment? You're not
Yes.
You're not talking about women friendships that are.
No. Although, I guess that's happening more and more. Like when women get older, and a lot of them become widows, they're like 4 of them are like the Golden Girls, But it's actually happening more these days.
I guess the other cliche about single women is 9 cats. That would be the other. That would be
Yes. Yeah.
How many do you have?
I have 1.
Okay. But you have a son.
Yes, I have a son.
Yeah.
And, well, and that was the thing with me, like, at a certain point in my life, I realized that I was waiting to be married to do a lot of things, and I was like, why am I waiting to do these things? And I also realized what I really wanted was a child. I didn't necessarily want the husband, like if I had one, great. But what I really wanted was to be a mom. That was, I've always loved kids. I'm pretty good with them. At least, I was like the babysitter of the neighborhood and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to, to be the mom of a child and take care of a child.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like that finally coming to that realization totally changed my life. So
that was a stronger impulse than simply a relationship.
Yeah. I always felt like I was trying too hard with relationships, I had one in my 20s that I really thought we were going to be married, and when that didn't happen, that really kind of put a damper on my thoughts about relationships, and after that, it was really hard for me to, I don't know, there are negative things in there too, right?
Was that Christian Bale or?
It was Christian Bale.
And you just gave up on that.
Yeah.
And he moved on.
Yeah, and I didn't. So that's what's happened.
And on that note.
But, it's funny because it's weird, my son's school, it's a Catholic boys' high school, right? And I don't know if all Catholic boys' high schools are like this, but it's very like old school in many ways, right? And so when he first started there, I thought, oh, maybe I'll join the parents' council, because I was involved in stuff at his elementary school. And so I went to like a couple of meetings, and it was like the president couple, that was the official title, the president couple. And it was all like, it was the president couple, the vice president couple, the secretary couple. And I was like, fuck this. Like, do you
That's
really?
very weird.
Oh, it was so. And
You mean the school's staff were all introduced as?
no, this was the parents' council. So volunteer parents, right?
Oh.
And so
it was a husband and wife team?
yes.
Oh.
Each of the officers were a husband and wife team. They called it the president couple, the vice president couple.
Oh.
And that just totally rubbed me the wrong way. And, like the teachers would always say stuff like when you went to the open houses or you went to the teacher's night, like the teachers would always say stuff like, well, be polite to your mom and take care of your mom and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what year are we living in?
Right.
It just felt like so antediluvian. It just did not, I don't know, just did not sit well. And I had the chance to be in a focus group for that school once. And I told that to them. I'm like, as a single mom, I said, that just doesn't, that just really didn't wash with me, the couple, it really.
Right. And in the 2000s too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the president's couple.
Yeah.
This is the vice president's couple. Yeah. And there's Grace.
Then there's me.
Right. Grace with her blow up doll. Looks like Christian Bale.
Grace in her locket with Christian Bale in it. I mean, it just, and all of the events that they had too. Like at his elementary school, there were many things that you could go to that it didn't feel weird if you weren't with someone. It was a very kind of artsy and liberal crowd, and this school just really wasn't. And so it was kind of funny. And even with my son too, he basically he came out as like an atheist after he was there a couple of years,
Catholic school will do that to you.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I don't really believe in God. Well, it was nice because he said, I don't really believe in God. I said, oh, it's nice that you say that because I don't really either. Right. Thank you. I've been trying to keep it from you.
I've been reading, Patrick O'Brien novels about, that Master and Commander was made.
Yeah. I had a friend who loved those books.
I think there's 23 of them or something.
Wow.
They're all really good.
They're brilliantly written and, very flowery. And they uses a lot of nautical terms that you don't know what they are. But the point, I don't know, there's something just really engaging about them. And the captain, who's the main character in all of them.
It's the same character
It's the same character all the way through. Yeah, Jack.
Oh, that's cool. Like James Bond.
And same time period.
Yeah, Captain. It's all Napoleonic War era stuff. And Captain Jack Aubrey.
Yeah.
And his friend, Stephen Maturin. I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, he was...
totally homoerotic, by the way.
Yeah, I know you always say that. The Master and Commander is kind of a giveaway of what happens. It's not like that at all.
Oh, it is now. You're going to get to book number 24 and be like, damn it. Gave you grace.
How much you want to make a bet? If you look online, there's going to be fan fiction like that.
Right.
And I'll read it now into every page.
Go on. Sorry. Go on.
He was involved with a family, a woman, a widow who had 3 daughters. There's a whole, second plot line about her trying to find someone for each daughter. And her life is basically that. That's all there is to it. All she cares about is finding a suitable male who can provide a living for the daughter because she's running out of money. But so anyway, in that period of time, that was the culture. I mean, there was no other way out, at least for people of some
Isn't that
means.
like every Bronte novel has to do with marrying off their children?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all like that, and that was part of it, and I guess that just has spread into our culture and
Yeah, I mean,
up till now.
there were some. I just watched this old series about Lily Langtry. That was an old PBS series, and that was, she fell into that trap, initially, but then she was like, screw this. She got to London and she, just discovered like the society of artists and writers and all these other people, and just, decided, well, I'm going to live my life the way I want to. And she did, and so I guess, there's always some people like that, right? But I would imagine at certain periods of time, it takes a lot more bravery to do that. And now, though, you don't really have to be that brave. You can just do it if you want it. Although, again, there are some people who just don't understand it. But then on the other hand, I have friends who are married. They're like, Grace, I wish I weren't married.
Sure.
I want to be you, Grace.
Actually, it's really funny. Like the women that I know who are like I have a few friends who are, like late 20s, early 30s. And they're like, we want to be like you. It's really fun. Like they just want to live the way they want to live,
Right.
And again, it's not like I said, I'm going to be single forever. If I had found someone that worked for me, and maybe I still could, but I'm happy where I am. It's like I'm not, I do know women. There's one in my book group actually who strikes me as someone who thinks she always has to explain like
why she's not with someone.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Are unhappy marriages more common than happy marriages?
I think
what's the statistics?
I think it's the typical statistics of just about anything, right? Like 10% are excellent. 20% are good, 50% are yeah, and then 10% are horrifying.
Right.
The standard bell curve.
That's
of everything.
Exactly. That's my theory. But oddly enough, like all the friends that I have who are married have really nice marriages.
Maybe you shy away from uncomfortable relationships.
Well, there is someone in my sphere who's not a friend of mine, but another, connection, who has a marriage that is not comfortable and it's not fun to be around. But all my close friends have really nice marriage, and I really like the men they're married to. And, and you, Wally, I like Cecilia, you guys seem to have a really nice marriage. And when Chuck isn't covered in mud, it always struck me that you guys had a really nice relationship. And it's nice to see that.
When you're not dreaming about burying Chuck.
He was digging the hole, not me.
Did you ever see that Twilight Zone where this guy, he gets a mail order bride, right? They're in like the Midwest or something like this in maybe the 40s or 50s. And he's very like, he doesn't talk a lot. He's like a real Midwesterner guy. And, she's there and she starts to maybe hear some things, some little whispers about his ex, his previous wife. And, she starts getting suspicious of him and all that kind of stuff. And so all of a sudden he's working on the basement all the time. And finally she's so curious. She goes down there and she sees this big hole that basically looks like a grave. Right. And so one day he comes down there. I hope I'm telling it right, but he's like, can you come down here? And she's, freaking out and she gets like the rifle and they get down there and she shoots him dead. Right. And she gets down there and it turns out that he was digging a hole for like a new freezer or something.
Right.
Oops.
Like for her. Yeah. Did you ever see that one?
Did she push him in it and just...
I don't know. It was just like when you saw what it was, you're like, oh shit. And that was the end of the episode. I never forgot that one.
Well, this has been Wally.
And
Grace.
Bailey. Thank you for listening to Charbroiled Chats. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Like there's this one where Robert Redford, he's probably like 25 years old. He plays Death, and it's really good. And then there's the one with Peter Falk in it. There's all these old stars just really kind of starting out. It's fun.